is about alternatives. And what I mean by alternatives is that you want to play around with different scenarios that the person can potentially get into. And to make these different scenarios and then interact with them can then give you more information about what the person can do or what they should try and avoid. So what you do is you take your sitter and you get an image for them. You take another situation or person or object and you play the two off against each other. So what you do is you have the one impression, you have the other impression, and you say, I want to see how those two interact. This one is just a fun dynamic, and you can see that the two now interact with each other in a very spectacular way, and you can take your deductions from it. Mainly what you want to do as the one doing the reading is play off the scenarios on your reading screen and then literally comment on it. So it's very much being the commentator to the situation. So say for instance I have two people. Let's take this example and say, okay, I've got my sitter, which could be either the male or the female, and then I have another person in the setup, and I say, I want to see what happens if this person meets someone in, say, the setup which they enjoy. So say for instance this person is a dancer, and say, well, what would happen if this person meets someone at the place where they work or do their recreation. And then when I put the two together, they make magic. They just come together and they do something really great together. So this could be something like, okay, well, there's just a great chemistry between them. There's a great work ethic between them. I can then just commentate and say, well, I see the two of you coming together and it just looks really great. There's this really beautiful play off between the two of you. I see it like two people dancing. I see not just dancing, but doing something really great in dancing. So very kind of sensual or very pronounced when the two of you get together. And this could maybe be somebody they were asking about or somebody that they would potentially meet. Okay, so now I ask questions. So I say, well, now I want to see something more. What else can I do here? I can say, well, what happens when the two people then move apart? And now see, okay, well, when they move apart, okay, they get into the same thing again. Okay, they really have this magnetism between each other. When I pull them apart, they actually gravitate towards each other yet again. So they have like a strong dynamic. They've got a strong attraction between the two of them for whatever reason it is, whether it be for a professional relationship or whatever else. So then I can also say, okay, well, what if I put them in a different setting? I take them and say, for instance, this person has to relocate. I say, well, when they relocate, I take this person, I relocate, and I see, okay, well, this person kind of like moves towards them again, and say, well, there's a good chance that, it seems that this person would really consider moving with you if you had to go. So essentially, we really want to create different scenarios, but ones that are realistic, ones that would benefit the sitter in some way. We could also go the other way and say, well, what happens if I take the one person and completely remove them from this person's life? What would happen? What would potentially happen? Would they meet someone else? Would they down the line find somebody else to dance with? What would be the case? And I could see, okay, well, they could find other people to dance with, but that's not really have the same situation as this person. So this then we can go and do that. We can also say, well, what if what if this person and the other person, if I say, for instance, put them in different schools, where the one isn't in one dance school and the other one's another dance school, and say, well, maybe there's some collaboration between the dance school. I see the dance schools kind of gravitating towards each other. I could have that, or I could have that. Okay, well, now they are different dance schools, and they each want to prove their worth in their dance school, and they could then pull apart. So we just really don't want to think about what could potentially happen. We want to just create a situation on our reading screen and play the commentator and tell them what is happening. That's pretty much simply it. And really be probing and really ask a lot of questions. One of the things I was saying about this sort of setup is that what you want to do is not just sit there and wait for things to come to you. If you're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to see what images I get for you, well, get a start to the images, and then start to interact and say, okay, well, I want to see what would happen if I take this person and put them in this situation. I want to see what happens when I bring people into this person's life. How would they interact with them? I do this quite a lot, so I want to see, well, what is this person's social characteristics. So what I do is I take them and put them in a social setting, and I say, well, I want to see how this person generally interacts with people. Oh, this person is very talkative. This person really has a good, strong connection with people, but I see that those people don't really respond the same way. They don't listen always. So I can go and put them into a situation, see what they do, and then I can give a comment on it. So I can start to understand my sitter based on all these situations I subject my little avatar on my reading screen to. And this becomes really helpful, because what I can do is I do this with the relationships quite a bit, and I'll get into relationships specifically. I do play off different people against each other in relationships, and one of the things that I do quite a lot is that I see, okay, well, this person maybe not really enjoy this other person too much right now, but what if I put them in another relationship? Would they do the same thing? And well, the general answer is yes. They really start to repeat behaviors, and then you can say, look, you can run away from this. You can run away from this situation, but then I see a repeat. For instance, okay, if I have a person that maybe struggles with their career, and they don't really get the best work at where they work, and then I put them into a different setup for career, and I see, well, in the beginning it's okay, but then they still get the same result. So if they're going to change jobs, they're not going to get a different result, which has been my experience when I was young and a little bit dumb as well. So you can go and look at things like that, and you can say, okay, well, what is this person, what if I put this person into a situation where they really get this right? So I put them into a situation and say, they are now more assertive, they're getting better work. What did they do? Oh, I see that you sitting and studying every night, for instance, or I see that you spend time working, and then you spend some time during your workday, after your workday, to then educate yourself more on things in the company itself. So learning more about how your process in the company works, or something to that effect. So the biggest thing about readings and this alternatives role play type of setup is that don't just sit there looking at your reading screen and waiting for something to pop up. Really go after things, really play with it, really start to bring in different situations, so that you can understand your sitter better, and not just that. It is so that your sitter can understand themselves better, and that they can get something to consider, that they can get something that they can think about. They don't necessarily have to go and apply it. It's just for you to give them something that they can then go forward with. That's it.